All right, chat. We're gonna do a chatting section for a bit. We're gonna let the conversation go where it needs to go, and we're gonna talk about it. So, sure. All right, friends. So I had this thought, and I talked about it earlier in the stream. But one thing that I had a conversation with Ross about recently was like what we actually think about the game. I was really like deep diving in like in my own mind and my own thoughts to try to like be super honest while I was talking to Ross. This is all off stream, and we were talking about the game and like, is the game actually going in the right direction? Is the game really doing well? And the reason why this whole thought has entered my head is because this is nothing new, but all over the subreddit, in YouTube comments from time to time, in Twitch streams, it's always the same thing. Like, the game is dead, the game is dead, the game is dead. And it's just like, from my perspective personally, it's really exhausting for two reasons. And this is total transparency. I don't want this game to die. I want the game to do well because I think that I do well in this ecosystem. I make good videos for the game. People like me in the community. Like, my channel's been growing. Like, that is the first reason. The second reason is I genuinely am excited most days to get on and talk about, or like to talk about the game, to make videos, to play the game. Like, it's a natural thing for me to be excited to want to play this game, to interact with the people that I've met on this game, etc. So we were having this like super serious moment where I basically asked him, I said, bro, am I crazy for feeling like this game is like going in the right direction, even though it's like slow? I was like, tell me if you think like straight up, like be honest with me. Like, tell me if you think that the game is like dying or like dead. And me and him basically agree. Long story short, me and him basically agreed. Like, we think that the game is like going in the right direction. And albeit it might be a long, turn of events, I've always had this like sentiment that like anything worth doing like is not gonna be quick. You know what I mean? Like, anything that is worth accomplishing or getting done or doing is not meant to just be easy. So I kind of wanted to bring that discussion to the table to talk to y'all about like, what do you think? Like, do you think that the game is dying? Do you think that the game is going in the right direction? Like, what are our unfiltered thoughts about Spellbreak? So I want to read y'all's chats and just like talk about it. Game is great, but the devs need to be more open with what they are working on and what they think need. And yeah, I agree. I definitely think like a slight bit more communication would be really good. Men news frequently than no news ever. And you know what's funny is that their communication isn't terrible, but they don't like consolidate it. Like, I see things like on Twitter, and then I catch things on Reddit, and then you have like Jesse stream, and you have Seth stream. Like, it's just a little scatterbrained. So they got Shroud playing little Where's the Ads like Dork Night. So the thing is like they did big advertisements and they spent a lot of money in advertisements. It's just that the game wasn't like good enough to retain players. So the thing that matters most is them implementing new things and building onto the game and continuing to make iterations to the game to hold those players. So that way, when they do like another round of advertising, when they do launch Chapter 2, that it's hopefully good enough to keep. Fortnite's big, but it really didn't start popping off mainstream wise until season 4 or 5. I think we're on a good track. Well, I mean, Fortnite was undeniably much more successful early on than Spellbreak was, but it was also a different time, right? Like, BRs were kind of blowing up and stuff like that. So, infancy and growing. That's how I feel. I definitely feel like if you're in the game this early, you have to like be willing to ride the infancy. You know what I mean? I think that the game is good, but we're losing players for not having a reason to play, and it's getting boring, but the future is very bright. That's exactly how I feel, right? Like, I feel like the game is in probably one of the worst states that it's been in, at least for me within the last 6 months, because I'm bored, but not because I don't want to play the game. You know what I mean? It's not because I don't want to get on and play. I love the mechanics. I love the game. I love the classes. It's that we need that cycle. We need that gameplay loop to have meaning. We need the cycle of like new content, new change, new balance, new talents. Like, the season felt like Chapter 1 to me just felt abandoned. And I think that feeling might not change in Chapter 2, but I think that it's going to change in the future. So I think that like as long as like the game is sustainable, like as long as people can physically play it, like the lobbies aren't entirely dead, like the developers don't run out of money and stuff, like I think that we are going in a good direction, so yeah. Like that, those are all the things that like I'm thinking right now. We need new modes. People have been asking for Arena since 2019. See, that's my thing. I didn't really jump in, obviously, like seriously until launch. I think the implementation of like Clash is really interesting because Clash feels so much like something that is desperately needed in the game, but in the worst way possible. So I genuinely feel like Clash is going to get replaced by the new mode, and I'm hoping that the new mode is like respawn based. I really don't know what I want it to be, but I want it to be respawn based because I think that the game deserves to be experienced like in a respawn mode for people that just like the combat. Like Battle Royale is kind of just like its own thing, but I think that the combat is so good that it deserves like more playtime on it, and that's why respawn is good. But unfortunately, Clash is just not very good. Yeah, what up, Vape? How's it going, man? Dark locks me, but I'm still here for it. If that makes sense. Like you're not full sending it, or like you don't feel like you're super invested, but like you're around for it because you probably see the potential as well, Kyle. That's kind of how I'm reading it. That's kind of how I'm reading it. Who thought the OG graphics were better, so detailed and vibrant? You know, it's funny. I saw some of the OG graphics and like it was like before a lot of the like more cartoony cell shaded looking kind of style, and it looked really serious, but I'm not sure I actually prefer it better. It looks good. Like I've seen some of the old footage and stuff. It doesn't look bad. I mean, the UI was all crap, but that doesn't matter. The UI doesn't matter. I'm talking about the actual design of like the way that the game looks. So I don't hate the design or anything like that. I do think that there's like a lot of complaints. Y'all probably saw it as well, where people complain about like, oh, like the thing about this map is that like none of the places feel super unique. Like there's only a few places that feel really unique. And I do agree with that. I think that way too much of the map feels the same. So like, you know, like when you think about Fortnite, you think about like Retail Row and Dusty Depot, and like these places like stand out in your mind in the history of Fortnite. And I don't think that Spellbreak has that, like almost at all. So I definitely think that if BR like is to continue, like I hope that we see some really significant map changes, because for example, it's a perfect example too. Bogmore is perfect. No one will not know what Bogmore is now. You know what I mean? Like all of Castle Bogmore is very well designed. Halcyon's obviously well designed. Dustpool is well designed, but there's just a lot of places that aren't really. You believe Spellbreak is in the make or break phase, or is it too early? I don't know. You know, I think the only thing that's make or break for the game is the financial situation of the developers, and there's zero chance of knowing what that is. You know what I mean? Like it's literally like impossible for us to know what their financial situation is. But I don't think that the game is in such a bad spot that it's like if chapter 2 isn't a knockout hit, then the game is dead. Like I don't think that. I think that they could easily go for like a handful of chapters before it starts feeling like really drawn out to the point where it's like, okay, nothing has ever changed. Now, I understand why some of that fatigue is probably already set in for veteran players because they've been playing for like 2 years. But for me, the only thing that matters is from launch to now. Nothing prior to that matters because that was all pre-launch testing. Like they are allowed to be slower. They're allowed to do things in a different way than they can post-launch. Post-launch is really important. Bogmore's an example. Yeah, I think so too. I think that that's definitely like the first stages of them like improving the map. Thinking they can get more of their assets on server side, then they can have more freedom to roll out. So yeah, exactly. And they keep telling us about that. I think that that's going to take a long time though, which sucks, but is also really good. So like if we can get to that point where they're more frequently able to patch and stuff like that, even that's good. Dustpool and Halcyon are iconic. That's it. Yeah, I mean, Bogmore, Dustpool, Halcyon, Hope's End, and Fervor Ridge, but they're on the edge of the map. I was talking to T-Fall about this recently in like that stream that we did the other day on Wednesday, and I was like, dude, if Fervor Ridge was like in the middle of the map, it'd look awesome. Or if Hope's End, like that like crazy looking, deserted looking place, like that would be really cool if it was like in the middle of the map. Upward trends, devs have been adding cool things and are learning. Yeah, it's like literally is it on an upward trend? No, it's probably more on a downward trend, but I don't think that's like permanent, right? Like I don't think that like the current state of the player base is like indicative of the future, because like the day chapter 2 drops, more people are going to play. So I don't even know if that matters. I feel that Krashy release life. Yeah, exactly. Like release is life. Anything prior to release like doesn't matter at all. More terrain interactions are inevitable, I guess. Yeah, I think like more map interactions in general. Rifts, Featherfall vents, maybe like they'll have like areas like the shrines where there's like interactable elements built into place, you know what I mean, like things that blow up and stuff. Could be interesting. Probably very costly because of server maintenance, I mean, but it's a shit ton of data and have to hold. So yeah, no, it definitely wouldn't be coming this chapter, I don't think either. The industry's so competitive and the audience is so impatient. Well, it's not even impatience, it's just, I mean, I agree with you, but you know, with these free-to-play games as a service, you're fighting for humanity's most valuable commodity, and that's someone's attention and their time. Because like if I'm not spending my time on this game I'm spending it on Apex Legends or Fortnite or Overwatch or somewhere else. And if I'm not spending my time there, then I'm spending it on Netflix or Disney Plus or Hulu. Like, it's the entertainment industry that is meant to be a long service that requires you to be like cream of the crop. And it's hard. But the good thing about that is that usually the people that do it well, like if you have a stellar product, right? Streaming platform, TV series, game, there's always like a market for you. And so I don't think that we're facing like an industry that doesn't have enough people to go around. I think that the game just hasn't been in that place yet. Like we've seen people like Shroud, we've seen people like Cypher PK, we've seen people like even Miskiff was like super excited about this game, and like all of those people were obviously like paid to play the game, sponsorships, but they were super excited about, like, they enjoyed it genuinely. So if the game gets better and then grows, and then though, like, I'm not saying those people have to come back, but like if they get more sponsorship opportunities or more opportunities to test out the game and just to see what they think, then I think that like we're on like a weird kind of a bad spot right now, but I don't think it's that hard to go from where we are to really, really good position for growth. I really, really don't. So I think drugs, I'm not gonna lie, I think Clash might be more popular than VR across the board. I just think it's simpler, and like people just want faster gameplay. I just don't like Clash, and I think it sucks personally. They're gonna repair the world the storm destroyed. That could be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do. Yo, what up, ELK? I appreciate you. I appreciate you. But like my overall sentiment to like just continue this talking point for a little bit is that I think that there are some really core things that the game needs, and we went without them, and they if you really look back and you think about the changes, you really start to see what all has changed. Because when you're in like a set point, it's almost hard to remember what you didn't have. But like we got launch, there was no Clash, right? It was only BR, and it was only squads. So we got Clash. That was something that the game needed, even though I still think we need more because it's not perfect. But we got something that the game needed. Then we got Prologue, which was a battle pass. That was something that the game needed. Then we got Chapter 1, which brought like changes to the game, which are needed, and it brought a fuller battle pass, a much more real, like a longer battle pass. So it's like and I say this all the time, this has been my main sentiment. Every time they update, the game actually gets way better, way, way better. So if they can continue to do the work that they're doing, and even if it takes time, that's okay. So I think that as long as we get to continue that run, then we're good. What up, Flash? Flash is only fun when you want to blow off steam. Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. That's for some of us. Like, some people actually just prefer Clash and will play it all day. So if Clash had skill-based matchmaking, would you play it more? I mean, even if it didn't have the skill-based matchmaking and it just had like the level-based matchmaking, probably. Because it'd be more competitive, dude. Like, my thing with Clash is that I don't want to go into Clash and drop 20 kills on a brand new player, because it happens. That happens all the time. Spellbreak could blow up in new modes. I genuinely think that. I think here's the thing. Ranked is gonna do a lot, way more than I think people think. As long as it's good, we have to assume that it's good. Ranked is gonna give us that consistent reason to get on, and that won't matter for everyone, but it's gonna matter for a lot of us. That's really, really good. Then just like implementations to the game, improving the game, like updating and having patches and like a whole new chapter, new content, that's always good for the game too. So I'm really excited about that. I'd love to see a PvE, like a horde mode or something. I wouldn't mind seeing like something like that. I'm a little worried that something like that might take too much time, so we'll have to see what happens. Think the other gauntlet buff will be pyro? Yeah, I think the gauntlet buff will be pyro. Keep running brand new players in Clash. It feels horrible. See that? Isn't this a weird double standard, right? It feels terrible to run into new players in Clash, but isn't it kind of awesome to be reminded that new people try this game all the time? Like, you gotta think about that. Every time I jump in Clash, there's a brand new player. So interesting thought there. And when you play Battle Royale 23 plus lobbies, you start to realize when new 23 players are in your lobby, like 23, 24, 25, you can tell. So like there's more people playing the game. or at least that are getting higher up, which means that they're playing the game, and there's like opportunity for the game to grow just based on the new changes. So for me personally, so I'm going to go ahead and sum this up, and we'll call this a talking point for the day. For me personally, I think that the sentiment, and this is what this has all been about: the game's dead, the game's dying, the developers, they suck, or they abandoned the game, blah 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 blah. I think that's absolutely a dog shit take. Like, I think that it's an emotional. I think it's like way too aggressive. I think that take is terrible, because the people that say that are usually the people that love the game, but they feel slighted. You know what I mean? They feel like, well, I invested time and effort, maybe even money, and this game should be way more popular. And it's just a terrible take. It's people that are impatient. It's people that aren't willing to actually be a part of a growing game and a growing community. And I just don't like that take. And I think that's terrible. I think it's a terrible take. I think the reality, if you want to come at this from like a very realistic sense, I think the game is in a pretty poor spot. And yet, even when it's in a poor spot, it's in like an okay spot, and it's in a spot that has potential for really big growth. So even when the game for us is like in a pretty poor spot, it's still just like this. It's like a spring, you know what I mean? It's like cocked down, ready to just pop. And I don't think this game's just going to blow up overnight. That's not what I think. But I think that like chapter 2, it brings a lot of good content, and a lot of good things if they execute on it well. If like, you know what I mean, it feels good. There's not a ton of bugs. Like, Switch feels good, console feels good, maybe matchmaking and ranked is good. They do some sponsored content. Boom, we get more players. Maybe that's not our blow up moment, right? But then guess what? Chapter 3, 3 months later, rolls around, more new stuff, more reasons, more content, more good game modes or implementations. Like, it's all about this like slow growth for this game that I really believe that we're going to have. 100%. I appreciate that you're relaxed and acknowledge the reality. Yeah, I mean, I just think that it sucks when people post on Reddit and are like, this game's dead. And it's like, it's really not. And if you have any sense, you would know that. And also, if you care about the game at all, like truly, if you care about this game, you just won't be that nonsense person. You won't do that. What you do is you interact with the community. You talk to new players. You provide content and feedback and streams, and you play the game, and you interact with the devs, and you post on the Discord. Like, if you really want this game to succeed, there are 1,000 other things you can do than getting emotionally unstable and posting on Reddit how dead the game is. And I just hate that people do that. I really, really wish that people wouldn't do that. Gave constructive feedback and were ignored, so now they just hate and trash talk it. Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, nobody's feedback or criticism is guaranteed to be validated. Like, if I say that I think that something absolutely should be a certain way, and then they don't do it, yeah, maybe I'll feel slighted. But it's not my game. That's what I want it to be. But no single person, or not even like a small group of people, can speak for the entirety of the player base. So you have to have like a little bit of self-awareness to know that just because you told them that you wanted something some way doesn't mean that you're going to get it. Not always. So, you know, I don't know. What do you think will happen if Leagues is bad? I mean, I think that people will still play. I think it'll feel a lot like what it feels like now, right? Like, it'll still feel like there's just like nothing to play for. Even if it's like kind of better, that would still be good. As long as there's something to play for with Leagues, that'll be good. I think I'm worried that Leagues might be bad, just because it's a possibility, but I'm not actually worried about it. But I think like if Leagues is bad, it's just gonna suck, right? It's just gonna feel like, damn, dude, like they had an opportunity to do this, and this is what we got instead. But but that's not what I'm feeling. I'm optimistic as hell. I'm really, really optimistic. It just hasn't taken off yet. That's how I feel. And that's the thing. I think that there's a whole host of people that kind of fall in this like category of players for games that just want to play the hit thing, right? They want to play something that's on top. Like, people play Apex ranked because it's Apex and that's like, it's a game that's doing well. But like, there's still a ton of people playing like TF2 and stuff, you know what I mean? Like, you can have a successful, good game that has a solid community, and it doesn't have to be the top of Twitch, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be 100, a million players, 4 million players on the Steam charts. Like, it doesn't have to be the biggest game in the world to be a good game that's sustainable, that can financially sustain itself and the developers in order for it to have a solid future. And that doesn't mean that it can't get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So, I don't know. For me personally, I have a lot of hope. And not even just hope, right? Like, I'm not just putting blind faith into the wind. I've seen what Proletariat can do. Like I play the game now and I love it, even so. And I have a lot of faith in their talent. I think if nothing else, everybody can agree that Proletariat is a talented team. Maybe they don't make the best decisions. Maybe things haven't been perfect, but they have a lot of talent. And I'm really excited about that. This game's amazing. I love the combat interaction. It's so different. I come from Overwatch, and I think I'm glad I found this community. I just want the rank to be good. Absolutely. And I think, like, comparing this game to, like, a game like Overwatch or Paladins is probably as good as you're going to get. And even then, like, when you play Pharah, which is like a Pyro, right? Sure, we'll compare the two. You're playing Pharah. You're not playing...
Krashy's trying his hardest, isn't he?
You're playing Pharah. You're not playing a Pyro class that has the opportunity to do this. You know what I mean? Yo, Megaverse! Welcome to the membership, my dude. I appreciate you, brother. I think I saw you streaming, so hopefully your stream was well. So yeah, I don't know, dude. Maybe there's too many capes. I don't know. Capes? What's wrong with capes? This was a couple of months back, but I'm kind of open to coming back with new mode. I think that many people like me. Absolutely. I think there are a whole host of people, and I've said this 1,000 times, that are just not interested in BR, and if they can nail a good mode, then we're big chillin'. They just started playing yesterday and they love the game. Yeah, a lot of people are like that, for sure. Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I'm very optimistic, very excited. I think regardless, at least the beginning of Chapter 2, I mean, bare minimum, I'm talking almost worst case scenario. Bare minimum, at least the beginning of Chapter 2 will be great, right? Because it's new and exciting. These shouts.